Hi there, everyone. Just checking in. Whoopsies, already going too far ahead of ourselves. All right, just checking in that you can see my screen. Thumbs up, yes, awesome. So this is the 10th of January of 2020. We're 10 days in. To me, it feels like a month, but I am doing a re-recording of this one originally broadcasted on the 8th. And I have a friend with me here today, and I'm really excited to redo this, and it's going to be even better the second time around. So let me tell you a little bit about why I even made this thing. So astrology can get really, okay, I'm going to go back and let me start over. so, um, So the reason why I made this teaching today, this talk, was because every year around the new year, I like to look at this thing called the ephemeris, which is a crazy book. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's a crazy book of numbers. And it basically is plotting where the planets are in the sky. And to those who are versed in astrology, like myself, that also equates to what the stories that are happening throughout the year. And so I look at the astrology, and I wish I did it more often, but I do it really at the beginning of the year. And I see like, oh, wow, this is going to happen. This isn't going to happen. And this year is pretty dramatic for a couple of reasons. Not only the eclipse today, but there are there's a planet, there's a lot of planets in Capricorn right now. And there is the planet Mars is going to be, I'm going to like do a spoiler here, like Mars is going to be in Aries for half of the year. And I'll tell you all what that means a little bit. But when I saw these things, I was like, oh my gosh, like this isn't something that I should keep to myself. I probably should share this. And you know what? I'll make this relatable to some of the things I've been talking about lately with my group, with my community. And so here we are with the love moods of 2020. And it's an astrological guidance for your sexy year. And because I'm a coach, I'm also going to coach your way into getting the most out of this time together. So are you excited? You said yes. I know you did. All right. So today we will identify the ideal times of the year to start a new relationship, explore the range of your sex life. This is a fun conversation. Understand where he's more likely to commit and how, meaning what circumstances, how you can heal old wounds, meaning when things from your past come up, what does healing look like in certain times of the year, when you need to be more sensitive to vulnerable moments. This is vulnerable moments for yourself and inviting in the support you need, but also when he might be more sensitive or just needing his own space, so you can be sensitive to yourself and not take things personally. So that is that. And right now, and the old conversations, those are always fun, right? Like when you've like been brewing about something in yourself, like, well, now is not a good time and things are going well. When do I get to bring this up again? The old baggage. There are great times to do that. And it's probably not when you're thinking, especially if you're a Mercury retrograde warrior. Just saying. So this is how I got into astrology and coaching. To me, I was looking, I was at the time I was a choreographer and a dancer with running a full-time, well, what felt like a full-time job, but it was actually, I was getting paid part-time to run some dance companies. And I thought, you know what, I'm working so hard, I need to find something to be as a hobby. I like this woman that I see at the Open Center here in New York City, so I'm just going to go and take this woman's astrology class and get a hobby finally. I really want to know what the elixir of life is, because if I could just figure out like how to be an alchemist and make everything work for me, because I was really into spirituality and I felt like I could create the world with my mind, which I'm partly true about that. I thought like astrology would give me the keys to open up the gates in the heavens so I could create my life and be really in the know. And what I found out that actually astrology didn't give me the keys, but it did give me a path and it gave me a map. And I happened to be very good at it. So before I knew it, within 6 months, I started my certifications of astrology. and that just became a way of way for me to see the world, for me to analyze and assess so that I can make some choices in my life, which is why I got into coaching. So astrology is really good for some of the broader concepts, some of the philosophies, some of the like, this is what could be going on, the diagnostic type of things and prediction. But what can be hard in astrology is if you don't have any coaching to help make it into real. So I call this the marriage of the inspiration, which would be astrology, into action, which would be, this case, coaching. So I got into coaching to really figure out how to get people more grounded, to really get some more results. For me, I'm really about helping women, helping people in general create a deep relationship to themselves, which is the nature, which is your true nature, and then being able to figure out how to make that into the world. So to me, these are a good marriage. Um, and so I just want to say, like, this is like, I am actually a certified astrologer. There is such a thing. There is actually more organizations than just these two that I'm certified with. And as part of that certification for ESAR, which is the international organization that I'm a part of, I learned how to do some consulting, meaning being sensitive to feelings and not having you believe that your life is fated for hell or heaven. That is called bad astrology. Now, I've been a coach for over 9 years. I used to start off as a generalist because I wanted to help everyone. My heart was like, I want to help everyone. So I would do love, I would do business, I would do life, I would do past life traumas, like soul regressions. I did everything. And then about 2 years ago, I got a calling. I just tuned into myself and I felt like, oh, I really need to be doing love and relationships as my primary way of starting to work with people. And I got really scared because for me, I have a history of, my family was divorced. I felt like relationships were one of the biggest struggle I ever had. And then a moment later, I remember that I've been in relationship for over a decade, and I had been married for, now it's been, I think, 7.5 years. And actually, I think I did know a lot about love and relationships more than I realized. We have a 4.5-year-old now. I continue to love in a different way. Relationships is still so fascinating for me, and it's such a rewarding way to really couple the inspiration and the action that I've always been driven by. So that's about me. So here's about the briefest astrology overview possible. I just want to share. There's people who spend their whole lives studying astrology. So this is what I'm going to tell you about astrology. So astrology is a compass to orient you to the nature of things. And they use archetypes that are deep in our collective unconsciousness. So Venus and Persephone and Pluto and all of these mythos are deep in our psyche. And with any story, there's a positive and a negative to that story. And astrology gives us the whole range of what's possible by layering these different types of archetypes on top of each other. So depending on your level of awareness or consciousness, those expressions of the planetary energies will be more or less in your nature or your potential. And free will does exist, especially in Western astrology. I firmly believe that we are co-creators in the context of what support is most readily available and how we want to shape our lives. So meaning, if you're really wanting to call in a relationship into your life, there may be more opportune times than not in astrology, and you can also just work with your own nature and love and have that be your way to co-create with the cosmos. So I do that and I couple that with, so the coaching is the way to be like, okay, let's get clear. So we're clear with the universe, clear with the cosmos, to let the inspiration open that space up for us. Make sense? Great. So here's the personal planets. The personal planets are the ones that are inside the asteroid belt. And these basically talk about how our everyday life will go. They are the ones we are most easily to relate to. Like, maybe you feel closest to your best friend that lives halfway across the country, but you're probably knowing what's happening with your coworkers and your neighbors more in the day-to-day. And so this is the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. The astrologers called them planets. I know they're not all planets. They're, but that's what they called them. So those are the ones that we're going to be focusing on today, because we're talking about 365 days of what's going on in the daily day, right? It's the news before the news. And the outer planets are the ones that better dictate generational and longer form influences. So the outer planets are the ones on the farther side of the asteroid belt from the sun. And they're the ones that give the context. So what that means is that they take longer to go around, to orbit around the sun and even travel through the zodiac from our perspective. And therefore, they're more constant energies that we can understand in a greater context. I will say that the major thing for the outer planets this year is what's called a stellium in Capricorn, and that broader context of that stellium will be very influential as how they relate to the personal planets. That's what we're going to be going through. So first, let's just orient yourself to what you have for your 2020 vision for love. And I want you to get in touch with that for a moment and just get into your reality. Where are you at? So it's not what you want, it's where you at. So I am single, or I'm in a relationship that I'm really excited about and I hope I can grow it, or I'm in a relationship that's toxic for me, I need to end it. Figure out where you are right now. This should be pretty easy. And now for yourself, imagine where you might see yourself growing or evolving to in the next year. So if you really were to have your heart's desire, what does that look like? Does it mean that you've been successful in attracting better dates? Does that mean that you have a commitment, the big C word, from somebody? What does that look like? Moving in together, mending your marriage. What does this look like for you? And in addition to that, I believe that the emotional understanding of how that feels like is very beneficial to feel. So just imagine how you might feel by the end of the year with some of those more outward evidences of your growth. And from that space of feeling, so feel it, what might have happened to help you feel that way? Okay. So with that, just make a note about the essential nature of what you're trying to manifest this year. And we're going to go through the astrology. So I'm just going to get you a little bit more in touch about who we're talking about. So Venus is the planet that rules women along with the moon. She is the yin energy, which is in everyone. Women tend to be more yin expressive, and then they have the yang inner nature, and men tend to have a more inner yin nature and a more outward yang expression. So Venus is the yin. She's about love. She's about attraction, the powers of quiet persuasion. So she is the one who's bringing in, calling in. She's not really, the energy isn't out with her. It's more in and soft, and it has an outward expression in order to understand what the internal movements are. So that in that way, she's also when she's in harmony with herself, she's able to be a peacemaker. She's able to have common sense. She's able to have sensibility. She really can see beauty in different things. She also rules music and values. And if you think about who might need to have those kind of skill sets around, these are some of the types of jobs. So if you know anybody, particularly somebody that you're dating or that's your love interest, your partner, in these kinds of fields with the arts, design, beauty, basically decorative things for the inside the house, landscaping for inside the house, or things that have to do with value of worth, whether it's money, whether it's just essential value of the things. People in construction taking the raw things to make something out of it. If you know anybody like that's in your life, they're going to be more affected by the cycles of Venus I'm going to be talking about. Mars is men, the yang energy. It's the opposite of what I just talked about with with the yin energy in Venus. And Mars is an outward energy. It's very focused, it's direct. And this way, it can be seen as like the sexual drive or the sexual spark, that passion. It's about action, combativeness. Um, he is a war god, but the war god doesn't necessarily have to be in war, but he's fighting for something. He has physical energy. He's courageous. He likes to initiate things, try new things. Like without the youthful spirit, without the virility and vitality of Mars, life would just be a giant puddle of yin, which is, nice for maybe a couple minutes, but then we're like, wait, we want to feel something different. Give us some instigation. So in the positive, Mars is the one that brings life and direction to things. And in the negative, he can be impulsive to his own detriment, rash, resistant to different things. And so if you're thinking about people who have a lot of Mars energy, it's going to be people who do thrive off of that fast intensity action type of thing, which would be emergency workers, people who have to do with the defense industry, people who work with knives. You want to be focused for that, right? People who work with eyes, focus. The people who give directions and orders, they can give a vision, a direction very easily. Again, archaeologist is basically a one that, again, they're working with knives, but they're digging into the earth. Also, anything that has to do with death, Mars affects. So the whole death process, the hospice people, the cemetery people, the estate lawyers, etc. Donors, patrons, so people that have to do with the actions and things of has to do with other people's money, sex topics. All right, so those are your Mars people. So again, look at these kind of people. If you're dating somebody, if your partner's one of these type of people, they may be more affected by Mars. Even yourself, if you have more Mars energy, that it seems like you have more Mars energy in your chart, then you might want to pay extra attention to Mars, because that will affect you even more than the others. All right, Mercury is the communicator between all the different planets and the sun, which is the higher self. We'll get into that a little bit. Just think of Mercury as mercurial. It's a shapeshifter, so that it's communicating between spirit and matter. So it's invisible but perceivable, and he tries to make it so we can work with it. And if you think of things that have to kind of move fast and be shapeshifters, it's people that really have to be good at communications and words, and also those who have to do with transportation, the actual movement of things. So you can think about people like that. Here's a whole list of the types of people who might be mercurial in nature. The positive nature is to really bring people together and bring things together. The negative nature is if Mercury is really not expressed, it becomes argumentative and grumpy. It's debatable. It debates with everything. It doesn't really know how to pick and choose its fights. They also could be prone to worry. So stick with Mercury, with the facts. Try to keep things very clear with Mercury, and things go well. But there's so many details with Mercury. That's easier said than done. All right, so Sun is the activator. It travels around the whole entire zodiac in 1 year, and I call it the activator because it's going to highlight every single part in your own natal or soul nature chart. It's also the sun in Western astrology is the ego, but the ego is a way for the soul to find expression and evolve throughout the life. So the sun, if you are able to use your personality for a deeper good, it's really a powerful way to see your year unfolding. So the rising sign, if you don't know it already, this is why the rising sign is so important, because it defines the beginning and the end of your personal year. All right. And then I talked about the Capricorn stellium. We're near the end of the playlist roster here, the roles. The Capricorn stellium is going to have Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in it all year round. Jupiter is a planet of expansion. He doesn't really like to be in the Capricorn, but he's going to be enhancing and accentuating all the crap and things we have not wanted to face with Saturn and Pluto from the past year. So if you haven't been looking at your shit already, well, you're by certain you're going to be forced to do that. And Mercury and Mars, I think they're currently in there. I'm getting confused with all the things here. Mercury is in there right now. Mars is in there in February. And then Mercury will go retrograde. Yeah, not into that though. So anyways, when Mercury and Mars are in there, they're also activating these energies and bringing forth different. So Mercury will bring back spring news about things that need to be unearthed and resolved, and Mars will also do that. And why are these big planets here anyway? It's because I like to say, like, it's just like they want you to have a backbone for something. So what are you standing for? What is it? What kind of what kind of levels of achievement on a surface level have you been going for? And is that really your truth? Have you been building your life on a lie? I mean, no one wants to say yes to that. But if we are buying into our family values or our society values, our workplace values, and it's not actually true to us, these kind of configurations are going to really bring light to that and ask you to go back to yourself and to assert your birthright about what you're here to do, to bring your purpose into reality, to give yourself direction, and to really start taking action. The thing with Pluto and sometimes Saturn is that the idea you'll feel compression, and which can turn into anxiety. It can turn into overwhelm. It can turn into lots of negative things if you're not really getting true with yourself. So if you start feeling yourself compressing, try to eliminate the external the skin stuff, and get back to what the backbone is of it. And the personal planets going around the Capricorn stellium are going to activate these in certain ways and help you work through that. Okay. We did that part. This is the thing about astrology. It's so information based that it becomes a lot. So you just pace yourself, Sue can't press pause, but Sue, everyone else press pause if you need a break, take it in, journal about it. This is for you. So again, remember what it is that what you're looking for in your love mood, whether it's a new relationship or improving the one you're in, whatever gradation that is, as we go through this. And I'm going to be referencing my ephemeris again, but also these giant pages of notes that I have. All right. Getting myself ready. Here we go. So Venus is going to be ahead of Mars in the zodiac for most of the year. So women rejoice because they know for once that they really are ahead of men. That's really just a joke. But yeah, she's going to be ahead. So you're going to be getting feelers and internal, like remember Venus is the one who's receptive. You're going to be feeling things coming in before you see them actually happening in external ways. So that's just something to be aware of. So you're not like disappointed that like, why do I feel this way inside, but then the external world isn't matching it? Just Mars is behind it. That's all. So whatever is attractive and accentuated can find momentum and movement once Mars gets there. So really remember the Venusian qualities here of like, let's find beauty in this moment. Let me find what really strikes me, what I know about myself based on putting myself in relationship to different things. Then I can learn how to take action on it later. So here we go. Pisces, this is where we are in 3 days through February 7th. Venus loves Pisces. It's her exaltation sign. And I really think of this as like really being intoxicating. Like she is really in the limelight. She feels like, but not limelight, the bright one. It's like she feels sexy and there's like nuance and there's depth, there's renewal, there's deep soul connection, there's merging. It's really assimilating the parts of yourself that you really love about yourself and letting go of some old baggage. And so with this, I really think the Pisces time of Venus would be great for starting a new relationship, especially if you're somebody who's looking for that deep merging soul connection. I mean, for the ones who are out there who are just looking for like passion's the most important thing, this maybe isn't the right time for you to start a new relationship, but this is really a good time if you're in relationship to take it easy and settle in and really allow yourself to make a deeper connection, whether it's just sharing the same room and listening to some soft music together, or it's talking about some old wounds that are coming up. that you really want to work through with that person. Pisces, Venus in Pisces is a great time to do that. Venus in Aries is our little firecracker. She is really excited to try on everything. And honestly, for the women out there, a lot of women are going to be feeling like they don't really want to do anything with anyone else. You may be feeling like you may be pushing people away more than you realize just by your own self-interest. But she is very fun and spontaneous, a little bit self-interested, like I just said, very sexually explorative. And she's going to be squaring the Capricorn stellium. So this is your opportunity to try out new things, to taste, to get a sense of what really lights you up for the things you value most in that backbone part of the Capricorn thing we talked about. So so it's not about like actually doing, it's about trying things on. So like try your new clothes on. Like, okay, if I'm going to stand for really having strong, okay, let's reframe this. If I'm going to stand for having good boundaries in my relationship so that I can really be focused about what I really want in my life and get other people to be enrolled and co-create that with me, I'm going to need to I need to figure out what I actually like to do. So the backbone is the boundaries and inviting people to do that with me. And then the Venus and Aries part is the part of, okay, I like to go out once a month with I like to go out and take myself on a personal retreat, for example. That felt really good. Or, oh, I went on a personal retreat for myself and I felt really lonely. So maybe I need to do that with friends next time. So it's just trying on new things about how you're going to set boundaries for yourself, if that was your backbone. Okay, so this is good for starting a new relationship, especially if you're the more passionate type. And the new relationship energy is going to be super intense with this one. So you might feel like, I love you, but can't say I love you, but I do. And it will be very sexually charged. And you might want to be taking your personal space too. So just be aware of accidentally shutting people out when you're just wanting to do your own thing. All right, Venus in Taurus. Venus in Taurus is so every sign is a response to the sign after it. And it's not the most apparent one to me is the Aries and Taurus. If you think of the wild girl and Aries, Taurus is very grounded and very centered and responding to all the flaws of the poor Venus and Aries that didn't do so well. I'm not saying you're going to do the bad version, but that's why the Taurus is there. So the Taurus time is March 5th through April 3rd. Here, Venus is going to be grounded, practical, and really loving to take in the pleasures of life, especially through taste, dance, and music. She likes to create roots and foundations here. So think of this being like you're building so your goal for the year, your love goal is a house that is going to be filled with that feeling that you had. And Taurus here, Venus and Taurus is the foundation where you dig the hole and you have something solid to go on. So you may not be the eccentric one here. Things might look really practical. And because Venus is coupled with Uranus for some of this, it's really about standing for your own light and your own individuality in it. So what's foundational for you may not be foundational for others. So here the big commitment word is definitely a possible thing. But beyond commitment, something that feels more foundational for you might be trust. So really letting yourself figure out what is it that you're really getting at when you talk about commitment, whether it's a title or if it's about making an agreement like we're not seeing anybody else. Maybe it is just about boundary setting again, it's just about safety. So if you're going to be seeing somebody else, that's okay. Just make sure you're wearing protection or whatever it is. Figure out what that is for you. Set your boundaries and don't set your boundaries as a way of making a wall, and make it as a way to invite somebody to co-create something with you. So the foundation isn't something you do alone. It's something you have to do together. All right. And that part was a lot better this time than the first time I did it. So that's why we're doing it. Gemini, Venus is going to be going retrograde here. And let's see, I think Mercury is too around this time. Let me just double check. April. Mercury is getting out of the shadow of his retrograde period. So in that Venus in Taurus time period, Mercury is ending his retrograde and he's in his shadow. So I'm just going back a little bit. And it's in Pisces, so it's again bringing up your old wounds. You might have to find a different solution to coming up with the agreements, but it's a very good time to heal and by making those different agreements, commitments, boundaries for yourself. All right, so the Gemini time overall is a time where her Venus's attention, so your way of navigating the world will be a little bit split in multiple directions. And yes, there's a second Venus Mercury retrograde at the end of June. That's why I said that. Okay. So the Gemini time, Venus and Gemini, again, you're going to have lots of different kinds of interests. A lot of it's going to be, the way of connecting is going to be a little bit more intellectual, more about the day-to-day. You like to learn a lot of new things in this one, but again, more in a foundational building blocks type of way, like your ABCs, not the long prose type of learning. And when it's retrograde, whenever a planet's energy goes retrograde, so when Venus goes retrograde in Gemini, her energy goes from a more outward expression of taking in the world around her and letting it process in her. It's going to be even more internal. So it's going to be a way of relating to the different parts of your inner being that may connect and grow. It's like orienting the way that you've been splitting your attention. So if you've been kind of compartmentalizing yourself, then with too many interests, it's an opportunity to be like, okay, well, these are taking away from my focus. Remember the Capricorn stuff here. These are taking away from my focus because these are taking away from my focus. I need a clean house. I need to make room to grow in the ways that I'm wanting to grow. And with that, like there's this idea, since Venus is going to be going through, there's a Cancer element to this because Mercury is the ruler of Venus in this situation. Mercury's going through Cancer in here. So the way you're going to move through it too is about self-care. And what Cancer people like to have an option of where to go when something if something is full. So you want to leave yourself opportunities to have an empty box inside yourself to grow and learn something new, or to feel like something can really help and support you when Venus is retrograde. So cleaning house is literally like making room to do something new, even if you don't know what's there yet. Hope I'm being clear with that. And then when Venus is finishing her retrograde, Mercury is beginning his retrograde, and that actually is the perfect time to bring up old conversations. So Mercury retrograde is a really great time to bring up old conversations, to see old people come into your life and to find a new way to relate to them. So that's what was unexpected. Mercury retrograde actually has a very good utility in that regard. So this time of period with the Gemini, it's really good to keep working on commitments and agreements. It's not to say that it's going to be staying one thing, but it's about the process of trying to figure out what works and coming into a conversation with that mindset in mind for both of you, not being so firm and strident about it, being like, okay, we're going to learn how to work with each other. That's going to really be helpful and available at this time period. Also to start relationships from old people. So maybe it's an old friend, maybe it is an old love, and you've grown to be better supports to each other now. That's also possible at this time. Great time for self-care and renewal if that's what you need. Also a great time for giving each other space and temporary separation to really be able to lovingly discern if this is the right relationship to co-create together. And conversely, it's also about deepening feelings. I mean, Gemini is confusing. It goes both ways, but all of those are possibilities. All right. Ooh, taking a breather. I'm going to take some water. All right. Let's do it. Let's do Cancer. So The Venus in Cancer is one that where she's going to be have to be a master of tracking her emotional and intuitive nature to direct and travel as her own light as the dark tunnel of Mars operating. Okay, so what I mean by that is uh, Mars by this time is about to enter. Um, yeah, Mars at this time is already in the sign of Aries, and he's going to be taking lots of. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but this is a square relationship, so there's some tension between what we're doing and how we're feeling in it, and there's some tension with uh, wanting to do your own thing and feeling like a lone wolf, which we'll talk about when we talk about the Mars and Aries, and the Venus and Cancer aspect here of what is it that really is nurturing me? Am I being cared for? Was any of these things we talked about meaningful? And you really can get lost in this feeling. And the important thing here is to remember, like, Cancer is also the sign of the mother. So if we're really thinking about the Capricorn stellium here, which is the opposition of Cancer, it's our prime opportunity here to really relate to what we're going to be, what our backbone's going to be. The question is, the thing is, like, when you're in your mother, you can sense and you can feel the world, but you don't see it. Like, you taste the world through your mother's food that she eats. There's like literal, like, we literally are tasting every food she eats and drink. There's also, like, you can hear things and you can smell things, everything but sight. And similarly, Venus in Cancer at this time is going to be like, I feel like this is the right path for me, but everything I see doesn't look like that. How can I know for sure? And this is going to deeply require you having your own intuition, you following your own instincts and your own nature, because that is the light for your dark tunnel that you're in. Whew. I actually look forward to that. That seems like a really nice challenge for me. So Venus will get things moving, and then when during the second half of this, there will be an opportunity to take from what's inside to start. You're going to be you're going to start to be able to put that to the outside, like have the same kind of like compass feeling, like intuition with other people, and moving through the dark in those unknown spaces. So I think this would be a really great time to heal your past wounds, especially if you have had a past where you've been abused or haven't been treated right, to really be able to learn how to trust yourself again. It's a really interesting way to move into a new relationship. I think it's a little bit of a tense time, but summer is primary time for that. Old conversations, the sexuality here would be deep and connecting when it is happening. Renegotiating what support looks like to each other. So because you're so vulnerable, you're going to need to ask to invite that into to support each other while you're feeling blind. All right, Leo. Venus and Leo. So I'm just imagining Mars in Aries, which we're going to get to pretty soon. But Mars in Aries is like a go-getter, like go, 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 go. Let's start. Thinking about the Venus in Aries, it's Mars, like it's even more force and energy. It's going to be very tiring by this time of the year, I think. And you might be feeling like you're all alone, that no one else is there for you. And this Venus in Leo is one that is going to allow you to start to try to feel the light in the moments. And so even if things are feeling tiring, like you're going on a never-ending treadmill of trying to figure out how to make your backbone work in the world, the backbone being the metaphorical backbone we're talking about, this Leo period is really going to be a nice opportunity to try to just appreciate those moments and feel the light in the day-to-day grind. So you may still be like doing a lot of things and feel like a lot of responsibilities, but there's an opportunity here to feel joy and finding a sweet spot between action and fulfillment. So really giving yourself the moments to feel those sweet spots. And then in the 23rd, so the second half of this, you can then again do that with other people because the sun's going to be changing from Virgo to Leo. I'm sorry, from Virgo to Libra. And Libra is definitely more a relational time to interact with people. And so you can start to feel like you're connecting with people and you have a life again. So at the beginning of this period, you might find that you want to have some space just because of the stresses. You're going to probably want to keep things very simple. Don't try to, life itself is going to be complicated. So don't try to add complications to your relationships or your love efforts. And if you do find yourself breaking or breaking up, you might as well just assign that to being overwhelmed. And when you feel like you got your grounding again, you could try again. If it's the right person. All right, Venus in Virgo. This is her least favorite place to be, if you can imagine. The perfectly open, receptive, happy Venus is in Virgo, the sign of work and day-to-day tasks and the mundane. She can feel very overwhelmed here. She feel everything going on, and things can like get knotted up in her stomach, and intestinal issues, all those kinds of things. The psychic senses get crunched, and then you start doubting yourself because there's so much going on with this kind of energy. And what you're going to really want to focus here on is the ability to expand through practical efforts. Stay rooted in the real world, trying to get too much into idea land. Remember your day-to-day considerations. So if you're feeling like I lost the vision of who I am, don't beat yourself up over it. This is the time to just be in doing mode. So find thing that really works in the long run by going through the Mercury retrograde this period. So the Mercury retrograde is going to be in Scorpio. So it's a time where you are getting precise about your strategies. So maybe you figure out like, hey, I'm actually like I'm running in circles and at work doing the same things over and over. And then I get back home and I have no energy left for my partner. How could I do this better? Well, maybe it's about taking a half hour to myself before I come home so I'm a better partner. That's, or I start seeing a therapist because I don't know how to deal with stress and anxiety that well. And so this is a really great time to get really practical about your health and your well-being so that you can really be, you can really make practical commitments and strides in that, whatever your relationship goal is this year. So this would be a good time for commitments and support practices. This is where you get to invite your partner to be like, okay, when I'm stressed, I just need to say, hey, can you say, hey, honey, looks like you're stressed. Can I give you a back massage? Or whatever you want. Like you need to invite those times to support practices to each other. And likewise, you can invite your own partner to be like, okay, so it looks like is it okay if I notice that you're checking out, that I just call, that I talk into it and I tell you that that's happening? They might say yes, they might say no, whatever it is. So your bond. So at this point too, I want you to be careful too of those of you who tend to get into negative relationships. Be careful of bonding through victimhood at this time period. Just be careful of that. And because everyone's going to be overwhelmed, you don't want to bond over the things that aren't going well. You don't want to say like, oh yeah, my day was so hard, I had to do this, this, and this. And you go over the agenda of the day. Instead, you want to try to let those kinds of day-to-day grinds not feed into what the relationship actually is, which is going to be the desire at this time period because you're overwhelmed. Instead, try to make it more about what the connection is and how you can be together even when you're stressed. Maybe it's just like, we sat down, ate together, thank God. Let's go to Libra. October 28th and November 21st. We're getting close to the holiday time now. And during this time period, Mercury is still retrograde in Scorpio and in his shadow. So Venus is self-contained here, but she's always talking to Mercury. That's her best friend, So this would be a good time for all the different mess ups in Virgo that you had, that you can actually remedy them and try to put them in the past. It's not going to be like, you're not going to be like digging through the graves of the mistakes you made and doing that. It's more just like having fun and getting out, remembering what you really appreciate about each other, what the types of things you like to do, the ways that you highlight the best out of each other, and giving yourselves opportunities to express that. So really it's the time to get a relationship to your backbone in a different way. What is the culture that you're trying to create when you, based on these different values that you're standing for, especially the year coming after this? How can you lead into conflict to get through it together? What if you, even if you're in parallel worlds or silos, what does it mean to be doing things together? So here is a good way to heal the old wounds and restart a relationship on a fresh footing. Love Libra times, yes. Okay. This is a Scorpio and Venus time, November 21st to 15th. This is a new way of working together. This is a more naturally good time to have commitments, but it's also the sexy time where you get lured into the dark corner and you get seduced. So if you like that kind of thing, great time to start a relationship like that. And if you tend to get with people who take advantage of you, be careful of dark corners. Yes. So with this one, again, great for commitments and deep, passionate love. Also, if you tend to be codependent, it's an easier way to get enmeshed and lost in somebody else's world and psychology. So just be careful if that's a weakness of yours. Sagittarius, December 15th through 8th. This will be wrapping up Jupiter's story when he magnified for you. So Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, so Venus is going to be affected by his movement, and he's moving out of Capricorn finally after a year to something he likes much better, which is Sagittarius, and the idea of trying on foreign things. So this is really, I think I'm really looking forward to this Venus and Sagittarius time because it just feels very celebratory to me. It feels like, let's just like get out and go up to the top of a mountain. I think people literally will go up to the top of the mountains. Let's like look out and just see whatever happened this year. This year was like so intense and we got through it. So I think this is a really beautiful way to make commitments to each other. If it's because it's based on experience and philosophies and shared philosophies and things like that. And it's also about having freedom and giving space. So the Sagittarius energy like loves to go out and do their own thing, but they always come back. So trusting the bigness. It's like imagine yourself as a giant in this time. Like I want to feel everything big. Step out. Oh yes, you're there. Okay, step out. Oh yes, I'm there. So that is that, and that's your 2020 year with Venus. Now the Mars one's going to be very fun. It's from his perspective because men are more expressive in Mars typically, and because it also has to do with sex. So that's going to be fun. Did I do this in the right order? Yes. Okay, here we go. Sagittarius, which is right now through February. Oops. Okay, we'll just go that way. Go back this way. There we go. All right. So this time of year, the Mars, so the men might be feeling like they're holding themselves up to high standards and they have a very strong belief of how they should be. So depending on how well he's doing in his actual course of actions or not, there can be a need to kind of isolate and do the silo thing because of just needing to have his space to figure out, like he really is inspired to do something big with his life this new year. The Mars and Sag is going to be looking to Venus for what life could look like with or without commitment. So it's just really like trying on, testing new grounds. So for the Venus person the Venus energy in the relationship itself, to really be trying on new things and to get like tones and things about the relationship more than the actual commitments to it. So this might be the time of year where he needs space. Also would be interesting if you're talking philosophical things are one of the ways that you really get turned down by people. It would be a great way to start a relationship on that kind of note. and a great way to heal some old wounds because you're standing for something, a new, different outlook. In terms of the sex life, this would be willing to try in some new perspectives or philosophies out there. So like if you're interested in Tantra or Kama Sutra or whatever else of form of, I think there's Kundalini Yoga, like stuff like that. All of that is more interesting and to bring into the bedroom and in those classes too. All right. Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn. This is Mars's favorite place in the zodiac to be. So he's super excited to be here, and he feels like super powerful and like he's conquered the world. And so if you find that your partner's ego is a little bit inflated, why not celebrate with him and and help and celebrate and encourage his upward mobility. A lot of times I get on my calls with my clients and my new clients, and they're talking about how they want a man to feel to really be able to not only provide but also just share responsibilities in the relationship. But then when they start to really assert themselves, we get a little bit scared, like, oh no, is he going to hurt me? So really allowing yourself to celebrate his successes and his highs, because that's just foundational for him to really be standing in what he's growing as his personal backbone for the year. And it gives him the motivation and strength to do all that Mars and Aries later on in the year. So if he seems dismissive, don't take it personally. He's just on his high, you know? So give him space, give yourself space if you're the Mars person. If you place things in terms of goals, commitments may be possible. And if you want to start a new relationship, you just be careful that it be more about the high than sustaining it. So in terms of sex life, the focus might be more on the climax than it is and what it brings you to new heights, which is kind of fun, than the actual like in between things. So if you're the type of person who really enjoys the sensual nature of it, if you can find your highs and your lows within that, that will make it all the more in the moment, the astrological moment. You'd be like, oh, sorry, honey, Mars is in Capricorn. Let's think about how we're getting off today. All right, Mars in Aquarius. Physically, Mars is slowing down in the sky at this period a little bit. And in Mars, he could be a little bit erratic and all over the place. So and what's nice about that is that there's more of a taste for taking risks. So the idea is that Mars is really striving to discover something, that there's a more humanist personality to Aquarius. And there's a desire to do things differently than normal. So if you are more into a non-traditional relationship, this might be a nice energy to start a new one on. And if you're looking for different commitments, realize that commitments at this time period may not look traditional. So maybe it looks like I want to be committed to you, but I don't want to be married to you because I don't believe in the institution of it. Or maybe it's I'm totally committed to you, and I also think it's healthy for us to have our own home spaces to live in, for example. So it's both like having your individuality and also figuring out your belonging and your tribe around us. So this is a really nice time too to go on double dates with friends, to really be meeting each other's friends, getting introduced to each other's tribes, and all of that. So good time to make the agreements without titles, abstracted commitments, and meeting each other's friends. Sex life, eccentric, playful, willing to try new things, surprises, hopefully not too big of surprises if you don't like surprises. Oh, all right. Mars and Pisces. This is admittedly very hard place for Mars to be, just because Mars likes focus and direction and action and response and engaging with things, like being able to go like he likes the abrasion of things, right? And in Pisces, it's like the ocean. So if you imagine someone who's a fighter and they're just trying to go through the ocean. It's very slow. It's sometimes misdirected. And at this time of the year, you're going to really need to be mindful that the progress that you're making in your own Mars, but also he's making with his Mars energy may seem irrational, may not seem very focused. It may seem like it's indirect, and figuring out that allowing that space to be like allowed to be still be an exploration, knowing that it's going to be ending in June and then it's going to really just be like go go go. This is also a really good time to figure out what's worthwhile to keep into the next cycle of your doing. So you could think of the June 28th time, just around the summer solstice, as your new year in terms of your Mars and your action, what you're doing. You could think about what's happened the past 2.5 years. How have you been in the world? What have you been doing? Does that reflect the backbone of what you're standing for? And really make some new agreements to yourself about how you're going to be and how you're going to be in the action of the world, and things you want to try out. So the types of commitments made during the Mars and Pisces are going to be very spiritual in nature. They're ones that are more based on feeling and deep knowing. There's an opportunity to heal some past wounds and to navigate to some uncomfortable spaces together to really show how you're there for each other. Everyone says they want to be there for each other with their partner, but that they don't actually engage in the messy material. This would be a good time to do that. If things aren't really working for you, this is a peaceful way to let things go your own ways, go your own paths, while also just maintaining your honoring the connection that you grew together. For the sex life, I would believe this would be a very sensual, seductive, vulnerable, and like I'm exposing my soul, and I believe and I trust you to hold me type of way. Pisces is all about the merging energy, so you can kind of feel like you're merging or enmeshing in each other in a positive way. And if you tend to lose yourself, you might lose yourself here a little bit, but also just allowing yourself to have those deep feelings, it's also really important. Okay, so here's the big thing that was shocking for me and the rest of the astrologers. Was that Mars is in Aries for half of the year, June 28th through January 6th of next year. And the thing with Aries, especially Mars in Aries, is like it's a feeling of only I can do it. And at first it can be very self-empowering, like, okay, yes, like I can do this. And you go and you dive off the cliff, or you try this thing. And it's very spontaneous and impulsive, and you're trying lots of new things. And eventually that kind of energy wears out anyone, even the best of athletes. And you're going to need to find a new relationship to it. So I haven't read the book myself, but I've heard of it. There's a book called Women Who Run with Wolves. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I think it's called Women Who Run with Wolves. And what I understand is from the idea of that is that these are women who are pioneers to do life as they want to do it, but doesn't mean that they're shutting people out. It means they're part of the world. So this is the sense I think that Mars and Aries is going to really allow us to get to. It has that relationship, the square relationship to the Capricorn stellium, the backbone that we've been talking about. And so this is the efforts to go out in the world and just try the new things, standing in like who you are as a person, the light that you are, the whole that you have the body, but you have the light of who you are on the inside. So this is a really time to like approach things with a youthfulness, an immaturity, in the sense of the way you're doing this now is going to be cute compared to how well you're going to be able to do the things that work later on. So the things that you're trying out, the different tastes. Remember, Venus was here much earlier than Mars is. So you've already had a sense of what the things you like to do, but then there's going to be like the actions, like how do you build momentum? How do you build strategy? How do you go about that? And detachment from security, from your insecurities, will be really helpful. So you can just be courageous and brave to approach your life like a battlefield. There's the fears, which is the dark side, And then there is the inspiration that you receive from who knows how, right? The divine, God, your inner knowing. And it's being putting those two in the battlefield and be like, okay, I'm going to go forward and on my path, uh, tirelessly every day, until I figure this out. When Mars goes retrograde in Aries, which is the 9th through the 14th, and the shadow is through most of the summer to the end of the year. So the shadow period's when the stories are the same, but it's not as act. It's like, okay, this is the story. This is the retrograde period where the things get moved around, and then the post shadow is how does the same story play out with the new perspectives. So the retrograde period is could be a good time to rekindle past relationships or past aspects of your own relationship, to take things back that you said that were foolish, to recognize, wait, that was really a misstep on my part. And because the energy is going internal to Mars, it's kind of like you're doing little surgery on yourself and trying to put yourself back together and find a new relationship to yourself, one that is really sparked, um, one that's really sparked by inspiration. So maybe you've been really prideful in the past in a way that was shutting people out. Then you can work on that part of yourself. Um, and at this time period too, you're probably be figuring out what you really want. Like, okay, I want to try new things maybe, and maybe I don't want to try new things because I'm scared. Remembering that light, that dark within you, and figure out what your light is. Um, so this is a very unstable energy. And so with instability, people tend to cling to things they love. And when with that type of clinging, I invite you to, if you notice it, to just step back and come back to your own and be like, what's lighting up my fire right now, and how can I approach this with new eyes? I know it's easier said than done, but I don't want you to get into codependent situations just by off of an instinct of like, am I losing him? Am I not? So use that kind of Venus energy of trusting yourself, that Cancer that we talked about before. All right. This is an interesting time to start new relationships, especially ones that are a foundation, the ones that represent that person you're wanting to become. That's Capricorn stellium. Learning how to communicate and how to not only communicate, but be in action with what you say. So it's one thing to say, honey, I got your back. And it's another thing to say, to actually go, oh, you had a bad day today. Tell me more about it. Or, oh, you're losing your footing at work. Do you want me to help you with part of, like, do you need to help me with your resume? Whatever it is, like being in action to do stuff with them. And this is really staying true to your nature, so your childlike innocence. So allowing that unveiling, it's going to be awkward for a lot of people, like, oh, and here I am with my child self, but inviting that part of that person to come out, just because it's purer light than a lot of the things a lot of the masks we tend to put on ourselves as we get older and mature. All right, so this is what we learned. We saw the years flow from the feminine perspective, Venus, and the masculine. We identified the times that were most favorable to start a relationship, work out the past wounds, rekindle the past relationships, your different sex moods, and when did commitments more favorable, and what that could look like. We saw different kinds of commitments and agreements. I thought that was really fun. And when to work through old conversations, which is the Mercury retrograde. All right. So this is what I want to do now. This is my coaching part. I want to consider your vision for the beginning of the call. And when do you feel like your best opportunities might be? So if you took notes about what some of those times would be, and you know what your goals were, like, when do you feel like is like some times for you to deep dive into that? Okay. And looking at some of the challenges I brought up, what kind of astrological context might slow you down or stand in the way of what you want? So if you tend to be one who loses themselves in relationship, maybe you're going to be thinking about when planets are in Pisces or in Scorpio. And then you want, what kind of ways would you want to work with it when it comes up? And what might be some skill sets or practices that could help you along the path to co-creating the love relationship you're most excited about? So if you are looking to start a relationship, for example, um, you can see here like, well, maybe something I need to learn is how to have more confidence in my own intuition, so that when he's more distant during this year, I can have an inner knowing about if it's moving along or not. So there's a lot of internal sophistication happening this year. Okay. And just for yourself, just go reflecting about our time together so far. What are the one or two things you found most valuable or insightful about our time together? Hopefully it's my lovely voice, my my lipstick. No, so what I wanted to do was I would love to be the opportunity to actually be a part of that skill building and helping you run through some of those tougher moments as they come up for you, whether they're to the T of the astrological moment or not. And so what I want to do for this one moment is just share with you a new opportunity I have to work together. So there's Sue here. I already asked her permission to go through there, and I ask your permission as well. I will, yes. So this is the name of my new group program. It's called Relationship Success Group Coaching Program. And this is what I really stand for in this relationship group program. It's to illuminate yourself. So I really believe that by creating a deep relationship with yourself, that you now have the tools to know how to not only attract that kind of relationship, but also to invite other people to make that relationship with you and really nourish your relationship. So this is what we're all standing for in the Relationship Success Group Coaching, no matter if you're just looking to attract a relationship or you're looking to improve the one you're in. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I created this program. I was thinking a lot about the ways that I learned how to be attractive and to men and all the different relationship advice that is out there. And I was just thinking about how a lot of it's just focused on looks and sex appeal, and it's this very surface level thing. And the deepest and the hardest part about reading that kind of advice that is out there for women is that women try it on and then they get disappointed that men only want sex from them, or that they're not really seeing who they are on the inside. And I really do know that there are good men out there, and that maybe it feels like a needle in the haystack, but the fact is that if you feel like there is a desire to be in a relationship that's coming from a deep centered place with you, and like there's plenty of women I know who've built a nice life for themselves, but they still want a relationship. Does that make them weaker? No. I believe that if you know within yourself that relationship is for you, that there is somebody out there. And I want to make a bridge that's not based on surface level things. I want to really facilitate the way of relating to each other in a deep way and make foundations of relationship that can really elevate not only the people that are in the relationship, but also to be an inspiration for other couples, for other world, the way we can really, and ultimately like create world peace by just allowing ourselves to relate to our natures. So this is what I'm really going for in this program. I really want to make something that's meaningful and deep and comprehensive. So this is what goes into, this program might be for you if you know what it's like to second guess what you said and did in every single interaction. If you struggle with not letting yourself fall too hard for him before he commits, so if you have the walls before you can trust him because you don't feel safe. If you are playing a numbers game, you're just trying to go on a bunch of dates. So the idea there is if you go on enough dates, you'll eventually meet somebody that could work, right? If you know what it's like to text him, but you don't text, you want to text him, but you don't because you don't want it to seem like you're too much. That if you follow the traditional dating advice, that it made you more attractive, but instead you only attract the surface layer of you, only a fraction of the person. If you have tendency to have big emotions and then you tend to spill them out and you go, oh no, did I ruin everything? How did I ruin everything? I've had that happen, and I did not ruin everything. And also, if you've always wondered if that's the last time you'll ever touch him, that's the worst feeling, like really not having confidence in the relationship at all. And that's hard. So, this is somebody who worked with me in group coaching and before, and she she was in a long-term relationship that was going nowhere when we first started working, and then she had just started dating, and she was attracting someone who was similar before that, and then she started eventually getting better and better fits to who she said her ideal date was. And this is what she said. She says, these days it's almost like quantity over quality. It's difficult to cut through the people and find the ones where there might be a real connection. Kristen helped me think about things in terms of abundance instead of scarcity, to stop clinging onto the things that aren't working or serving me. She helped me be more open to other people, being open to possibilities. And the last time I talked to her before the Christmas break. I'm calling it like school terms. But last time I talked to her, she had actually just met somebody who she was really excited to go on a date with and to deepen their relationship. And they had like a 7-hour date 2 times in a row. They were both really excited about each other. And she really did connect it to the work we did together too. And for her not settling. So these are some breakthroughs that I imagine for you if you were to do this group coaching. So I think that you really could speed up the dating process and your way to discern if he's the right person for you or not long term by going through this program. I think you're going to really like who you become. That's to me like one of the most fulfilling parts of this. And you're going to have more dimension to your life's experiences, that this isn't really just about strategy, it's about life. You're going to be able to share deeper connections with vulnerability and trust, not only with the women that you're practicing with in the group, but also with the partners and the dates you're inviting into your world. You can heal past relationship traumas, beliefs, and bad habits, and be able to communicate more effectively while maintaining your authenticity. So we're not going to be putting words in your mouth, but we're just be giving you some tools to really stand for yourself and get the respect that you're wanting, and he doesn't know how to give you yet because you haven't told him. All right. Yeah, men aren't mind readers, even though we want them to be. Even our soulmates are not mind readers. They get to know us, but they're not mind readers. Anyway, this is related to that. Understanding your boundaries and learn how to include him in your needs for boundaries so you can preserve them. And that's respect. All right. And of course, with all that comes confidence. All right, so this is what the group schedule looks like. We meet 4 times a month, and each month contains 1 week of group coaching. This is your opportunity to work with me one-on-one in the context of a group and work through specific questions or feelings. Let's face it, as women, we often don't know what we're talking about until we're talking. So this is the way to get clear about what's actually happening. And something that people really find surprising about group coaching is how they can relate to other people's experiences so much. Well, I think one of our greatest assets as women is that we can sympathize and relate to almost everything. And by the process of listening and holding space for other people to grow and evolve in the ways that are setting them up for their own relationship goals, we're healing those parts of ourselves. We're integrating more, and we're taking on even greater levels of integration and integration. So I think I said the same word twice. Didn't mean to though. All right. Second week after the group coaching call is about integration and accountability. So following the group coaching, at the end of it, we have an action plan that we each set for ourselves. And the week 2 is to say, hey, my action plan is not working, or I don't actually know what to do. And this is a time to say what you are doing. to be accountable to what your efforts are, and to also get clear on what could be help you get further ahead faster. All right, week 3 is focus groups. This is for you to move between as you move through different parts of your relationship. Um, the um, the whether you're starting a new relationship, you'll be in the new relationship group. Whether you're in the improve your relationship group, you'll be in that one. And this is meant to have more focused conversations on some of the day-to-day tactics that you might have to go through that are relevant to where you are in relationship right now. And you can move to each one depending where you are. And the 4th week is a facilitated buddy call. And the buddy calls are not just 2 people, they're actually 3 people. And this is where you get to learn the skills about coaching and learn how to coach yourself, and also learning how to hold space for your partner and asking for space from your partner in your relationship. So this is a real life practice of how to apply stuff outside of the group. And one person will be the coach, and then one person will be the talker, and one person will be the observer. And all 3 have a really amazing role to play in that. So just share a little bit too about Karen. Karen was somebody I worked with one-on-one, and what I did with Karen is the things I'm also definitely going to be doing with the group, using all those types of practices and techniques that I used with her to do it with the group as well. And so with her, we got super clear on what the frequency of her ideal relationship was. So this is really about getting deep in touch with your inner knowing about who is a match for you, and that the way you know that is by feeling super alive and charged with that. And getting a relationship with that energy will help you better be able to attract that energy, and also invite people into that energy to see if they have the ability to co-create that relationship with you. So that's what we did with her. So she changed her relationship to herself, and she started noticing that she was interacting with people in new eyes. And after trying to do things in person for a while, that kind of falling flat, she decided to do an online platform, and she cried through the generic questions, which I do agree that it's really difficult to be quantified in terms of numbers and stats. But then for the parts that she could qualify, she followed my instructions about how to make that better and more attractive for her future partner. So after crying all that through, a day later, she checked it. She had 5 people interested in her. And hello again. 3 were messages, and 1 felt like what was her frequency, which she felt like was like a hug from behind. So she went on a date with that one person who felt like who could be it. And her coffee date turned into a 7-hour date. And they fell in love right away. And maybe it's because of their age, where they just didn't care anymore. They knew what love was. They said love in the first week. They moved in together a couple of weeks later. And even though it was super fast and not all what she was anticipating, their romance is still thriving. And I love this little quote he said. He says, "I was looking for a nice Ford. I got a Ferrari in you." So they have a variety of interests, from martial arts to tantra, music, sailing, all sorts of things. I'm really happy for them. So here's some practical information about the calls. They're going to be on Zoom. So this is a video platform similar to what we're using today. And if the video doesn't work, you can always use your phone to call in. They're 90 minutes, and they're going to be starting February 4th. You get training and coaching to integrate the materials. You get to ask your questions or get help figuring out what's actually going on if you don't know. And whoops, this is it, right? Yes. Okay. So this is the investment. These are some things you might want to be thinking about when you're thinking about investing in yourself and your knowing about attracting a relationship or growing the relationship to a place where you think it really can thrive. So something you need to think about is that I'm somebody who is not your sister, not your best friend. I'm not your mother. And I am here to get your results and to keep it real with you while still loving you like a sister, like a mother, like a best friend. Sisters, mothers, best friends, their primary goal, even if they want the best for you, is to preserve the relationship. So sometimes advice can get muddied, and to keep you up and keep you on a pedestal, it just delays and slows down the places that you will get eventually. With here, you'll get help quicker. You'll be lovingly guided to to get your results that you're looking for in your love life. Um, Putting yourself in an immersive, energized environment reminds you about what you're standing for, reminds you about that backbone that you stated earlier in this call, and that putting yourself in that environment week by week is just like bringing in that energy. You're calling it in every single day and saying yes, 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 and that becomes habit. That becomes a reality for you much easier than if you were to do this on your own. All right. And I just want to remind you that you and your vision are worth it. I don't believe that God, the creator, the divine, would put this seed in your heart that you're meant to have a relationship or partnership if it wasn't actually true. What I know of the creator is that everything has a purpose, there's an intention, there's love. And I don't believe that you would have that vision unless it really could happen. And so this is worth it. You're worth it. And if you haven't found your partner yet, he hasn't either. So you might as well be a leader here, suck it up, and do what you need to do to make it easier for him to find you as well, and for you to grow this relationship to what you both know that you want, whether you know it or not. Okay. So here's some bonuses that are going into this program. The first is monthly workshops. So I'm going to be offering some 2-hour workshops that are going to be based on specific subjects, and it's going to be every month of the 6-month program. These are open to the general public, but as a member of the group, you're also getting them. And these are some topics I haven't really narrowed them down yet because I've been getting this together, but these are some things I'm thinking about. So you might know me already from the 7 subconscious stories, but we can do a deep dive for those who are already in a relationship, for example. We might do dating profiles at work and how to position yourself and the vision of what you know for a relationship into a dating profile that attracts the people who want to co-create that with you. An energetic cleansing and reset call. I have a history of guiding people in meditation and energetic attunements. This could be a reset for letting go of the past and bringing in the future that you know is yours. And also, if you're in relationship, maybe it's like, or even just you haven't really healed from the past when you mess up, how to forgive yourself, how to repair the relationship, what to do in communication. So those really sound like a lot of fun to me to do. And I don't know what I'm going to charge for it. I'm going to try to make it accessible. So I'm saying it's about $300. We'll see. To me, like, I don't know what I would get out of making a dating profile that works, that actually attracts somebody. To me, it's kind of priceless. I don't know how you put numbers on these things. That's the number. Bonus number 2 is just for the group coaching. I'm going to have integration classes following those workshops. So this is your opportunity for an hour to let me know what you have questions of after the workshop. It's also the ability to get personal feedback about how to make this your own. So if you didn't get enough on the workshop itself, you get some more just with the group here. And really this is about, I don't know if you've ever been, I'm sure you've been to different conferences and different intensive experiences, and you have that high, you have that motivation, and then just like falls to the wayside a couple weeks later. My hope is with this that you actually can keep the energy going for longer and make the energy useful for longer. I'm not going to pretend it's going to stay forever. I think that's just the nature of people, but this is the hope for that. So the value of that, I believe, is $600 because that's really personalized to you. All right, so this is what you're getting. You're getting the coaching program, which is 24 sessions. That's worth $3,000. And you're getting the workshop admissions, which I said was worth $300. And then the integration call is worth $600. I meant to say well, that didn't match. Anyways, the package is worth about $4,000, $3,950. And I also wanted to make sure that you get some more one-on-one time with me. So I'm also offering for this time unlimited 15-minute laser sessions with me. So basically, if you have a specific question or thing you want to work out, you book a time with me. We talk through it for about 15 minutes. I'm not going to have the kitchen timer going. That's ridiculous. But we'll take about 15 minutes. We'll get to the bottom of it. We'll give you a next step. And your job is to work on that next step before you book another call with me, and then we'll check in and keep doing it. So I'm just assuming that like maybe you do that once a month. So I said it's worth $750. So here we go. Here's the famous stack: relationship success group coaching, the workshop, the integration calls, the laser sessions with me. That value is almost $5,000. And for the first members, I'm going to offer it to you for 6 payments of $497. And if you really want to do full pay, I'm going to also just knock off that last month, and so it's $24.97. Yeah. So this is how you apply. There is a website called Kristen Today. That's my website. And there's a /apply. And this is a short application. It's, if I can figure out how to get there, I will. Let's see here. Well, the application is basically to help us figure out if it's a good fit for you at this time. It's about readiness, it's about motivation, because I want to make sure you're getting results. So go ahead, apply. And after you apply, I will review it and set up a quick call, maybe 15 minutes to review it with you. And we can figure out together if this is the right thing for you at this moment. And if it is, we'll move forward on making a deposit of probably $500, $497 the first month. And then if it's not, then we'll just talk about what makes sense for you. Maybe it's one of those workshops. Maybe it's something else. So I look forward to seeing your application. All right. So this is the time where we can ask questions about the program. And then following that, then we will get the questions for the actual content of the astrology thing. Sue, do you have any questions about the program?
I think it's what you presented is very clear and exciting. Not coming up with any questions at this time.
That's fine. Great. I like being clear. And if you, my fellow listener, watcher, have any questions, you can email me at inspire@kristen.today. I'd be happy to answer them. Okay. So some questions that people came up with on the first recording for this webinar was if they could get any if they can get my notes basically. And so I'm going to clean up these crazy notes I took and send that off with the replay so that you can get that kind of information more at hand. And if it also helps, I think that some of these slides would also be helpful to have because it has all the dates just kind of there. So if you have any questions about the love moods part, also you can email inspire@kristen.today. And do you have any questions, Sue, about the love moods?
I just had a quick question because a lot of this is new to me.
Great.
Or it's a second time through, so there's still a lot of information. You said something quickly that may or may not have relevance to most of what you were talking about, which I don't think it does. Just learning about rising sign versus sun sign.
Yeah.
And you made a reference that said that the rising sign defines the beginning and end of your year.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's appropriate to talk about here, if that's something you can follow up with me on.
Yeah. No, I would love to talk about that here. So your birthday is one version of your personal year, and that's kind of like a soul remembrance of the energy that you came in on with the flavoring of this current year. But also the sun is traveling around the zodiac, and you were born on a particular horizon, which is called your rising sign, which is called your descendant. And there's a particular zenith, which is the point directly above you, and the point directly below you, which is the I can't say it's Latin. It's like "Inam cum laude," or something like that. I don't know what it is. I don't even know what it is. So if you think about the horizon that you're born on, it's a way of seeing the world. And this is a interesting thing that the rising sign is the first house. It's the beginning of how you see the world. And that's why I also think of when the sun goes into your first house, it's like you are coming out into the world again in a different way. Like your ego, your personality is ready to be shaped. So for example, I'm a Leo rising, and the zodiac goes tick, 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 and it gets right to the edge of that moment between the 12th house and the first house. And the first house is just like there's a feeling of release every single year. I feel much, I mean, Leo rising people love to be shining and bright, and sometimes it's embarrassing, but um but that's, I literally feel like I'm out of a cage when I get to the first house. And it's literally that the same kind of energy too, is like the energy becomes more inward light, and then it becomes outward. And it's you're going through the sun, basically a giant sunrise and sunset in your chart throughout the year at that period. So knowing the exact degree when the sun gets there, it's pretty much the same time every year, less a quarter of a day depending on where you are in leap year. But you can look at um, that degree, and that's when you know when the beginning of your year is when it goes right into the first house. And then every time it goes through and the sun goes through a new house, it's an activator to that house's energy. So the first, let's pretend that there's an even amount of days for each house, because there's not in the method that I use. So let's pretend that the first month is your rising sign, and you're like, it's like, okay, here I am in the world. I'm showing up. Second house is what is my self-worth? What do I value? What am I doing here? Third house is what am I learning? How am I interacting with what I value, and what's available in the world? Fourth is like, where are my foundations? Where are my roots? What's my family doing? What's my home doing? What's my history that I'm working with or not? Fifth house is creativity and children and things that you do for fun and pleasure. Sixth house, the sixth month of your year, is about your day-to-day life, your responsibilities, your work. Um, and it goes on so and so forth through the different houses of the zodiac, lighting up different parts. It doesn't only light up, it not only lights up the different houses, but it also aspects your planets in different ways, activating the different potentials of um, your own nature, the reminder of your own inner nature, which is the sun, and to the configure your personal constellation that you have, the way you go about the world.
Just one
Go
question
ahead.
on that. So it sounds like we're both Leo rising.
I love that.
So do we have the same dates for that, or is it more specific based on each of us and our actual angles and degrees, or I'm sorry, on the
Yes. Yes,
language?
you're great. Those are actually the right terms.
Okay.
Degrees is the word.
Okay.
It depends on the degree and minute. I'll say just degree for the moment because that's easier. But it depends on the degree of your rising sign. So I think, yeah, I'm 2 degrees Leo about, and so 2 degrees of Leo for 2020 is August. No, so it's gonna be July. This year is July 26th is my personal new year. And I actually believe that there's like some sort of ingress that day. Yeah. So then I could take, so this is like advanced stuff here, but you could take the moment, like the minute and second that the sun goes to your first house, you could take a snapshot of that. And that can be like a tone for your year ahead. So let's say like, for example, mine is July 26th. Um, the moon will be in Taurus. Oh, I love that. So will be a year for me really to create foundations, take in pleasures. Um, Moon's exalted there, so I'm happy about that. Mercury will be retrograde uh, in Cancer, so I have to be aware of what my self-care looks like. So maybe that's why the moon has what it is right? Also, Venus will be in Cancer, so it will be a time when I need to have deep faith in myself and navigating my inner world for the year. Mars will be in Leo, so um, I'll be very much in the action of trying to be in my light throughout the year. That seems very appropriate for what I'm intending. And then Ceres is at the beginning of Sagittarius, so I'm nurturing what I believe in. And Jupiter this is last year. Oh, darn. That was last year. Well, that's what this year is about. I'm still halfway through, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm doing. So that's the point. You kind of go through and you can make it your own moment chart. It's called an English chart of that moment for your year, just like you would a solar return chart. Thanks for
Nice.
letting me nerd out on you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, I think that was it.
Cool. Well, those are fun questions. Yay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, until next time, thank you for joining me. And for you and for those listening, I hope that you consider joining the group program beginning February 4th, and or some of the monthly workshops going on. So there we go. Kisses. Bye.